Ah, St. Patrick's Day. Wearing green, pinching your friends, drinking, and putting grass in your pocket. Biden, what are you doing? I know they say you're senile, but I mean, come on. Well, there's more of them? It's a tradition? How did that practice start? Well, you're about to find out. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, and welcome to Presidential History. Our search for the first presidential celebration of this holiday brings us all the way back to the frigid winter of 1780. As noted by Mount Vernon, quote, "One of the bleakest in contemporary memory, the winter of 1779 and 1780 was especially brutal. Not only intolerably cold with 28 documented snowfalls, but the Continental Army was also in sore shape. On December 1, 1779, General Washington's miserable army trudged on to Morristown, New Jersey, a location chosen for its proximity to British-occupied New York. Deciding upon an area known as Jockey Hollow, the surrounding forest was quickly felled to erect 1,000 rudimentary log huts, prescribed in neat rows. Here they would winter as conditions continued to deteriorate. The face of the Continental Army had changed since the early days of the war, quite literally. Irish Presbyterian settlers comprised the largest immigrant group, more than 200,000, to arrive in the colonies in the 18th century. As interest in soldiering amongst those of English descent declined, Irish men, although considered less socially desirable, readily volunteered for active duty. As a result, a substantial percentage of the colonial army claimed Irish ancestry. General Washington and the larger American population was fascinated by the mounting political unrest in Ireland. He eagerly became a member of the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick, using his membership to recruit Irish Americans for the Continental Army. Not only did Ireland's patriotic struggle against the British Crown mirror their own hunger for liberty, but interest in the conflict was also strategic. Trouble for the British just across the Irish Sea was closer to home. It could effectively distract England from her independence-bent colonies, dividing not only attention but resources. Washington knew he had a morale problem on his hands during the vicious Morristown winter, and threats of mutiny must have been unnerving to the careful and stalwart leader of a freezing ragtag army. The general's decision was to announce a holiday for the troops, the only day off they had that winter. A little merriment could go a long way. So, on March 16, 1780, General Washington penned an order congratulating his soldiers and expressing feelings of solidarity with the Irish people's fight for liberty. Such an intelligent use of cultural knowledge for morale purposes did not go unnoticed by future presidents, as we will see in later centuries. Although some presidents celebrated the holiday during the 19th century, no notable events occurred until 1905. Perhaps the most surprising presidential event ever to occur on St. Patrick's Day, it was the wedding of future President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. As is well known, the Roosevelts were an immensely wealthy family back then, and their weddings showed it. Located in ritzy New York and consecrated by his old school headmaster, the star-studded wedding was quite the event. Unfortunately for the happy newlyweds, their nuptials were overshadowed by two things. First, as noted by history today, the vows were drowned out by the ancient order of Hibernans bellowing the wearing of the green as they paraded by outside. And second, Eleanor, the bride, was given away by her uncle, none other than Theodore Roosevelt, then both sitting president and the most popular man alive. As noted by Amy Bloom, the wedding was scheduled for St. Patrick's Day to accommodate Uncle Teddy's schedule. He had to march in the parade and officiate at the wedding. Roosevelt's daughter Alice quipped, "He wants to be the bride at every wedding, the corpse at every funeral, and the baby at every christening." Later that day, the president also attended a fancy celebratory dinner at the legendary Delmonico's on 56th Street. Said dinner, by the way, was hosted by none other than the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick, the same organization General Washington was a member of all those years ago. But alas, no permanent tradition formed for another half-century, and we must move on accordingly. About a half-century later, the most famous presidential St. Patrick's Day tradition was created. In March of 1952, the Irish ambassador presented President Truman with a crystal bowl of shamrocks in an effort to both gain the president's favor and draw his attention to issues concerning Ireland. Ever since then, there has been a White House celebration of St. Patrick's Day every year. While some included more festivities than others, the Shamrock ceremony has never ceased to be the central event. Some celebrations were especially notable. In 1959, President Eisenhower met Irish President Sean T. O'Kelly at the airport, and O'Kelly pinned shamrocks to his lapel. How they eventually ended up in multiple presidents' breast pockets is unknown. In 1961, President Kennedy was presented with his coat of arms along with a traditional bowl of shamrocks. He also spoke at the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick's dinner. But President Reagan is the one who made it an all-day celebration, with him and fellow Irishman Tip O'Neill, then Speaker of the House, having lunch at the Capitol and dinner at the Irish Embassy. Reagan loved St. Patrick's Day, and by love, I mean, well, look for yourself.